What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. And in this video, we're going to be continuing our series on how does a certain Canuck stack up to their draft class. We've already done two. We've done Brock Boeser and we've done Quinn Hughes. We're now doing a third one, and this one is going to be about Nils Hoglander. And instead of 10 years later in Brock Boeser's case or 7 years later in Quinn Hughes' case, Nils Hoglander is 6 years ago is when he was drafted in the 2019 NHL Draft. Obviously, that was a big draft for if you're a Canucks fan because the 2019 NHL Draft took place right here in Vancouver. So we're going to go over that. We're going to talk about how he stacks up to the 2019 draft class. But before we do, I want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that incredible artwork you see there behind me. And you guys can check them out yourselves at GassyJackArt.com. You can also find them on Instagram at GassyJackArt. So once again, that is GassyJackArt.com. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. We're going to go over an article first that talks about this. This article, of course, written by our friends at Canucks Army, in particular, David Quadrelli. Now, this was his idea to do this type of content, Canucks 6 years later, 10 years later, 7 years later. So all props go to my friend, my buddy, David Quadrelli. This is great, and I absolutely love it. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. He talks about in this article, I will leave a link to it in the description down below so you guys can read it yourselves. He talks about them looking at Brock Boeser 10 years later, Quinn Hughes 8 years later, or 7, and I'm more than open to suggestions of who else we should tackle. I'm assuming we're going to have Elias Pettersson in this at some point. But next up is Nils Hoglander, who the Canucks selected with the 40th overall pick at the 2019 NHL Draft here in Vancouver. Let's take a look at some key first-round misses. This was fittingly known as the Jack Hughes draft. The New Jersey Devils selected the middle Hughes brother at first overall, and the New York Rangers grabbed Kaapo Kakko at second overall. In comparison to the other draft classes we've looked at, 2019 was a fairly disappointing one. There were some key misses, such as LA taking Alex Turcotte 5th overall, Victor Soderstrom going to Arizona at 11th, and yes, the Canucks selecting was Vasily Podkolzin at 10th overall. In a redraft, Matt Boldy selected 12th overall by Minnesota, while likely goes second overall. And that's another thing too. When you think about the 2019 draft, Matt Boldy was selected 12th, which means the Canucks, had they not picked Podkolzin, they could have drafted Matt Boldy at 10th overall, and we could have Matt Boldy as a Vancouver Canuck. Just those what ifs, man, really makes you think. Let's take a look at value in the second round. Thankfully for the Canucks, as well as many other teams, actually, they were able to find some value in the second round of this draft class, while the Canucks took Nils Hoglander at 40th overall. 9 other teams were more than happy with their second round selections. There were 8 players selected in the first round who have yet to play over 100 NHL games. Meanwhile, in the second round, there were 20, not including goalies, who haven't yet played 100 NHL games. To put that into perspective, just 7 players from the first round of the 2020 NHL Draft have yet to play 100 NHL games. In the second round, however, just 5 players have reached that mark. For whatever reason, there was more value found in the second round of the 2019 draft than we've typically used to seeing. Seeing some names taken in the second round: Shane Pinto, Arthur Kaliev, Bobby Brink, Pyotr Kochetkov, Jackson Lacombe, Alex Vlasic, Nicholas Robertson, and Brett Leeson. Now let's take a look at how Hoglander stacks up to his draft class. Despite spending most of the 2022-23 season with the Abbotsford Canucks, Hoglander has played the seventh most NHL games of anyone taken in the 2019 draft. His 293 games is more than anyone taken outside of the first round has played, with Matias Maccelli 93rd overall to Arizona, bringing up the rear in that category with 224 games under his belt. Hoglander also ranks 7th in NHL goals among this draft class with 58. His 115 points is the 11th highest total of the class. These stats are perhaps even more impressive given the context of Hoglander's disappointing 2024-25 campaign, where after scoring 24 even-strength goals in 2023-24, Hoglander tallied just 8 goals and 17 assists this past season. The list of players taken ahead of Hoglander who have played fewer games than him is too long to write out, so we'll shorten it to the amount of players drafted higher than him who have logged under 200 NHL games, not including goalies. You have Alex Turcotte, Philip Broberg, Victor Soderstrom, Thomas Harley, Lassie Thompson, Vila Heinola, I probably misbutchered that name, Sam Poulin, Tobias Bjornfort, Jacob Pelletier, Nolan Foote, Ryan Suzuki, Braden Tracy, John Beecher, Ryan Johnson, Bobby Brink, Antti Tuomisto, Raphael Lavoie, and Jackson Lacombe. In conclusion, while it may have been a down year for Hoglander, the Canucks still did extremely well when they drafted him at 40th overall. Finding value outside of the first round is important for teams, and if a Hoglander can bounce back and be a 20-goal scorer once again, he'll continue to separate himself from what turned out to be a fairly weak draft class. So that is the article. Once again, I will leave it linked in the description down below. But let's take a look over at Elite Prospects and just go through the draft class. Obviously, like we always do in these videos, obviously we'll start off with the first overall pick being Jack Hughes, which we already mentioned. 7 seasons, 368 games played, 141 goals, 210 assists, 351 points. Capo Caco, originally drafted 2nd overall by the New York Rangers, now a Seattle Kraken, and having recently re-signed with the Kraken as well. 7 seasons, 379 games played, 71 goals, 90 assists, 161 points. Then you have 3rd overall Kirby Dach, originally drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks. Obviously, Kirby Dach now is a Montreal Canadien. 7 seasons, 269 games played, 43 goals, 78 assists, 121 points. Bo Byram, drafted 4th overall by the Colorado Avalanche. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Byram when it comes to the Canucks. And, of course, he recently re-signed with the Buffalo Sabres on a 2-year deal that takes him all the way into free agency. So who knows? Maybe in 2 years, Bowen Byram might be a Vancouver Canuck. Who knows? 6 seasons, 246 games played, 33 goals, 77 assists, 110 points. And then you get into the 5th overall pick by the LA Kings, Alex Turcotte, that David Quadrelli mentioned. Turcotte only has played 5 seasons, only 100 games played, 10 goals, 19 assists, 29 points. So that is not what you see out of a 5th overall pick. 6th overall pick from the Detroit Red Wings, Mo Seider, 5 seasons, 328 games played, 29 goals, 151 assists, 180 points. Then you have 7th overall by the Buffalo Sabres, Dylan Cousins, who is obviously now a Ottawa Senator. 6 seasons played, 362 games played, 82 goals, 131 assists, 213 points. Then you have Philip Broberg, drafted 8th overall by the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously now Broberg is a St. Louis Blue. 5 seasons, 149 games played, 10 goals, 32 assists, 42 points. The Anaheim Ducks drafted Trevor Zegras 9th overall, so 1 pick before Podkolzin was Trevor Zegras, who is now obviously a Philadelphia Flyer. 6 seasons played, 268 games played, 67 goals, 119 assists, 186 points. And then that takes us to 10th overall by the Vancouver Canucks, Vasily Podkolzin, only played 5 seasons, or has only played 5 seasons, 219 games played, 26 goals, 33 assists, 59 points. So, a lot of people might say that the Canucks gave up on Podkolzin too early. Some might argue against that. But obviously, when you're a 10th overall pick, you expect more production out of someone who is taking, within the first, 10 picks. You expect a guy like, not necessarily Jack Hughes, just, being 1st overall, but within the top 10 picks, you expect them to at least show some promise and some production. Obviously, the Canucks did not feel that way with Podkolzin. And as I mentioned, with Matt Boldy being picked 12th overall by the Minnesota Wild. First, we'll get into the 11th overall pick being Victor Soderstrom by the Arizona Coyotes. 5 seasons, 53 games played, 1 goal, 10 assists, 11 points. Then you have Matt Boldy, as we mentioned, 285 games played, 5 seasons, 102 goals, 142 assists, 244 points. So as I said earlier, and that what if, just imagine if the Canucks had drafted Matt Boldy 2 picks earlier at 10th overall, the Canucks would have, 102 goal player, through 5 seasons and a 244 point guy over the course of 5 seasons. Just imagine that. The Canucks having Matt Boldy, and I bet you anything, if they had drafted Matt Boldy, Canucks probably wouldn't have a second line center problem right now, right? 13th overall by the Florida Panthers was Spencer Knight. 5 seasons, 95 games played. He was the first goaltender picked in the first round of the 2019 draft. Obviously, now he is with Chicago, I believe. The Panthers traded him to Chicago. Then you have the Flyers, 14th overall pick, Cam York. 6 seasons, 235 games played, 19 goals, 58 assists, 77 points. And then you also have Cole Caulfield at 15th overall by the Montreal Canadiens. 6 seasons played, 287 games played, 118 goals, 101 assists, 219 points. And that's another thing too. We talk about Matt Boldy, could have been drafted by the Canucks. Cole Caulfield could have been drafted by the Canucks at 10th overall, but he ended up sliding down to 15th. So just imagine that if we had drafted Cole Caulfield, he probably would have been a better pick than Podkolzin. Obviously, at the time, the Canucks really wanted Podkolzin, and he had obviously a lot of promise and didn't live up to the hype. Next up, we have 16th overall Colorado Avalanche, Alex Newhook. And you have Peyton Krebs, 17th overall. Thomas Harley, 18th overall by the Dallas Stars. He seems to be a steal for the Stars. I think he's got a bright future. I'm a big fan of Thomas Harley. 6 seasons played, 197 games played, 32 goals, 71 assists, 103 points. Then you have Lassie Thompson, drafted by the Ottawa Senators, 19th overall. Billy Heinola, drafted 20th overall by the Winnipeg Jets. 5 seasons, 53 games played, a goal and 11 assists, 12 points. Then you have Samuel Poulin, drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then just moving down more. Yeah, the rest of the... Actually, let me just quickly share this, just so you guys can see it. Here, share screen. Share. And let me go back. And boom. No, there we go. Actually, let me... you guys can't see that part. Okay, let me go like this. There you go. You guys can see it better. Yeah, as you guys can see, starting at, we have a consistent of from 14th over, from where Cam York is, a consistent amount of 6 seasons played. Then you go down to 3 for Lassie Thompson, 5 for Heinola, 3 for Poulin. Bjornford has a 7. Holmstrom with 4 years or 4 seasons. Tomasino 5. Connor McMichael 6. Obviously, I didn't point him out. He's really came on this past season for the Washington Capitals, playing with Alex Ovechkin. Then you have Jacob Pelche, 4. Nolan Foote with 5. And then you have Ryan Suzuki. He's only played 1 season. I know he just recently resigned. He is an RFA that we're actually going to be talking about in a future video. Braden Tracy, 1 season. John Beecher, 3. And then Ryan Johnson, 3. So as you can see there, the years or the seasons rather, go down towards the end of the first round. Looking more into second round. And then as what Quads was mentioning about the second round being a lot better, now you got guys like Shane Pinto right up the top at 32, at 32nd overall, 33rd overall, Arthur Kaliev, Kochetkov at 36th overall in the second round, Jackson Lacombe of the Anaheim Ducks, and then, of course, there's Nils Hoglander at 40th overall. 6 seasons, 293 games played, as we mentioned, 58 goals, 57 assists, 115 points, and 127 penalty in minutes. Calm down there, Nils. Like, wow. Ooh. I mean, if you look at the far end, and this far end here is penalty in minutes. So we got 52 for Lacombe, 4 for Lavoie, although he's only played 2 seasons and only 16 games. But 127, that is the highest number up until Connor McMichael with 100. And then you have Peyton Krebs with 199, so almost 200 penalty minutes for Krebs. And then you have 148 for Boldy, 203 for Zegras, 222 for Cousins, 165 for Sider, 172 for Bowen Byram, 154 for Kirby Dach, 104, and then you have Jack Hughes with only 62 through 7 seasons, which is incredible. But the fact that Nils Hoglander has 127 over 6 seasons, like, chill out, dude. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the feistiness of Hoglander. It's one thing I actually absolutely love about him. And I'm actually kind of talked about him a little bit in that video, talking about, who's going to be an agitator. I could see Nils Hoglander doing that, and his penalty minutes, I guess, kind of shows that as well. Yeah, moving down, Alex Vlasic. Looking down, Nick Robertson, we mentioned, Brett Leeson. And obviously, as Quads mentioned, this draft class wasn't that great, which is really hard to say considering, it was in Vancouver. But obviously, all the talk was about Jack Hughes. As you mentioned, this was the Jack Hughes draft. But yeah. So yeah, that's that. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You guys can interact and find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at Line Change Van. You can find us on TikTok at the TLC Podcast. You can also find us on Blue Sky at The Line Change. And feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. You can, if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcast. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. But that's going to do it for me in this video. As always, let's go Canucks, and I'll see you guys in the next video.